We were really, really shocked to find out that he said we needed to have an inspection done on the roof.
Another inspection specifically on the roof.
The buyer wanted to have an inspection done on the roof as soon as possible. The realtor requested that we find one and the buyer would find two.
So we had a total of 3 different roofers or roofing inspectors come out to examine the roof and give us quotes on what it would cost to fix.
So the buyer hired 2 different roof inspectors to come out to our house. One came out at maybe about 8 o'clock in the morning. He got up on the roof and he took measurements with a tape measure. He walked around the house, he walked around the roof, and we kind of let him do his thing. And when he was done, he came and knocked on the door and said, "I'm all done." I said, "Okay, what's your assessment? What do you think?" And he's like, "Well, I wasn't hired to do a roof inspection. I was just hired to come out and take measurements for a new roof."
Okay.
That's not what we were told. So we hopped on the phone right away, called the realtor and said, "This is what happened." And he's saying that he was not hired to come out and do a roof inspection. We thought we were getting a roof inspection. And the realtor said, well, they were supposed to inspect the roof.
Yeah.
So the realtor hopped on the phone, called the buyer and said, "Hey, we're doing or roof inspections, right?" And the buyer said, "Yep." And so number 2 came out about 10 o'clock. The buyer came over, the realtor came over, and we were there.
The second roof inspector never got on the roof.
Right.
Just kind of walked around, said, I took measurements from like Google Earth or something, was there like 3 minutes and said, "Yep, you need a new roof," and left.
Yeah.
Like,
That wasn't a roof inspection.
yeah, that was just, here's what it's going to cost to replace the roof. So again, we were a little surprised, frustrated at that.
Right. So when we found out that we needed a roof inspection, I hopped on Facebook and asked my Facebook friends, "Hey, does anybody have any recommendations for trustworthy, well-priced roofers?" And I had 2 different Facebook friends come back and they recommended this one company.
Elevated Exteriors.
Our experience with them was completely different. What was the first thing he has to do, Joe?
He has to go up in the attic and start on the inside, looking at the roof from the inside.
He went in and he looked at the attic and he was looking for our insulation and how, what was the situation with the insulation? Did we have enough? Because in his assessment, ice damming happens because you don't have enough insulation. He got up on the roof and he walked all the way around and inspected flashing. And at the end of his time with us, we just said, what's your assessment? What do you think? You remember what he said?
What did he say?
He said, well, if I was buying this house, I would want a new roof because we had 3 layers of roofing. We thought we had 2, and that was news to us. But there had been some flashing problems on the west side of the house.
Yeah.
And when they lay in a roof on top of an existing roof, they don't replace the flashing. It just continues to get heaped on top of there. And so he said, your flashing is probably original. If it's rusted in one area and you've had issues, you don't know when you'll have issues again.
Yeah.
And so he said, if it was property I was buying, I would want a new roof too.
Yeah. So he recommended we tear off all 3 layers of the asphalt, go down to the original wood, replace any broken or rotting wood, and then put on a asphalt shingled roof.
And, that's not the news that we wanted to hear. Nobody wants to hear you need to spend $12,000 to replace the roof on your house.
But we felt confident about the assessment. We thought of all the 3, this guy really took the time. Again, Elevated Exteriors took the time to really look at it. So we felt more confident about that assessment.
We had to take that information from the 3 roofers and then figure out with the buyer what to do with that. when we signed the contract with the buyers, we agreed upon a closing date of March 22nd. And there were some problems with us being able to get to that March 22nd close date. The buyers wanted a new roof.
Yep.
They wanted it before closing. The third roofer told us that they could not put on a new roof before the outside temperatures hit 45 degrees consistently because there's an adhesion on the shingles that won't seal if it's not warm enough.
Again, our southern friends don't have to worry about this, but in the north, it's hard to do roofing in the winter.
Right. And so timing was a huge issue. The other problem that we had was the buyers really wanted a specific roofer out of the three, and he was the one we trusted the least because he didn't even get up on the roof.
What we really wanted to do was to give cash back at closing and let the buyers take care of the roof on their own after closing. They'd have the cash and they could choose the roofer that they wanted. They could do it when they wanted, but and that would eliminate this small window of trying to get the roof done in winter before closing, and we just couldn't see eye to eye on all of that. So we could not reach an agreement on the timing and the payment of the roof, and so that time period came to an end, and we couldn't see eye to eye, and so the agreement fell apart, and we no longer had a buyer for the house anymore.
So that's not how anyone wants the home inspection process to go. But again, we just found ourselves in a place where we have to trust the Lord in this.
So when the inspection report came back and we could not reach agreement with the buyers because of the roof and the whole thing fell apart, we were discouraged. We were disappointed. We had put all this time, all this energy, I mean, months and months and months and lots of money into getting the house ready. We had a contract and then it all falls through. We were discouraged.
I think for us too, one of our concerns was we really didn't want to have to start over again.
Yep.
We not only had we put in a lot of work, but that's also hard on the kids, especially they've been so patient with us as we were trying to get everything fixed up in the house, but also the cleaning process and trying to keep everything meticulous for whenever somebody would want to come over for a showing. That's just really hard on kids. And if you've gone through a house sale, you know how that is if you've got young ones. It's stressful on everyone, not just mom and dad.
Yeah. So listen, life is filled with ups and downs. Life is filled with opportunities of excitement and hope and things are working. And life is also filled with valleys where things are not working and things fall apart and expectations are not met. I think the question we all have to face from time to time is how do you deal with those disappointments? How do you deal with those seasons of life where things fall apart? Maybe you're going through a season of life right now where things are falling apart and life is not what you expected it to be. Maybe you had a dream and it's not coming to fruition as soon as you would like or how you would like. You know, these are the questions we all face from time to time. And, you know, our question really for you is to think about how do you handle those seasons of life when things fall apart? That was a big test for us. Do we doubt that God is in control? Do we doubt that God loves us? Do we doubt that God can provide? Do we doubt that God can turn this disappointment into something good? I mean, those are real tests for us. And we just want you to know that if you go through seasons, well, it's not if, it's when you go through seasons like that, keep trusting that the Lord has a plan. And that if what you thought you wanted falls through, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a different opportunity or different path, or maybe God is testing you and testing your faith. Do you trust Him to provide even when things seem like they're falling apart? So on the next video, we'll tell you how all of this worked out and how God provided. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, to your left, but it's hiding behind all those RVs. One for me and one for him.
ready.
I haven't seen one like this before.
Yes.
Why are you happy?
Because then you lose.
She's gonna be on the YouTube.
I have killed